Welcome to Forever Exiled. I'm Justin A.K. Tags.
And I'm Tyler, Wrecker of Days.
Episode 274 of Forever Exiled. And we're here. Happy New Year. It's the new year. 2025. Bam, bam, bam.
Happy birthday, everybody. Happy birthday.
Yes, happy birthday. Big shout out to all our Patreons. Thanks everybody who resubbed up this week. Patreon gets our access to After Dark. It's our podcast after this podcast, where it's just more of us. And we appreciate all the support and love your faces. And if you want to check it out, you can find it somewhere down below, website, all that kind of stuff. And also get on our Discord, say hello. I didn't even need your note for that one. I saw it.
I'm Ron Burgundy.
Burgundy? Yeah, it's a running joke. Our Discord is a lot of fun. And also, I know it is in your note, but I was going to say it anyway. 2121 this week has been a massive help for me. So thank you to everybody in there who's helped. Thank you to Gemline for helping me with one of my ascendancies. I'll talk about that later. Actually, I'll make a note so I talk about that because I did the Trial Master this time.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah, but with help. So thank you. But yeah, if you're looking for people to hang out with in-game, Global 2121 is where we hang out. It is weird. I think it's new to PoE 2 where SSF and the normal league are segregated in the chat, which is too bad because people playing SSF can't. I mean, they can talk in 2121. There's just a lot less people in there. So yeah, that's where we hang out. How's your...
I don't remember if that was a thing in Path of Exile 1 or not. I forget how chats were segregated in the first game.
In the first game, because we could play... you know what? It's possible that they were as well. I don't remember, but it is too bad because if you're outside of just the normal standard trade league, which is where most people are currently in PoE 2, at least for us, that's where we hang out. So yeah. How was your week, buddy? I like your shirt.
Good. Thanks.
Val Orb.
Some nerd gave it to me.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Goof. I had a good week, man. I had a good week.
Yeah.
Last week was Christmas.
No. Christmas is done.
Yeah,
gone.
But you had people over for New Year's, so thank you for having us. That was very kind. And yeah.
Thanks for coming by. It's too bad Aaron and the kids couldn't come.
Yeah, for sure. My son already had plans for New Year's. Grade 4, rocking it. Mm-hmm. And so he was at a sleepover at a buddy's place, but my wife and daughter have been sick for forever and ever. My wife refuses to go to the doctor for herself. I'm not sure why. It's likely a time thing, but she doesn't. So she's been
Does she take drugs when she's sick?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, unless you get something from the doctor, if it's something like pneumonia, which was going through the house, Tylenol's not going to do much for you. So anyway, so my wife is still dying, and but she's fine. My daughter, who's always been susceptible to pneumonia, eventually got it, and so we're on her second bout of antibiotics. Mm-hmm. I think it's working though. Today's day 2 on that, and it seems to be working better. So we'll see. Hopefully the fevers are gone. Well, because she missed the week before school, or the last week of school before the break.
Right.
And then however this pneumonia works, she got better for like a week. And then all of a sudden it got really bad again, worse than the first time around. So, and that's what happened with Oliver as well. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, so we're on that second bout. Hopefully she won't miss any time right after school because they're just going to be picking up right where they left off. And we've been practicing with
right after the break, you mean? Like right when it kicks back in? Yeah.
So we've been practicing some of the things that she needs practice in so that she still remembers it properly for when school comes back. But yeah, no, besides that, life's good. I'm healthy, which is nice. And you always need one of those in the family, right? It's good that everybody takes turns.
Mm-hmm.
So we did that. And then some of us saw Nosferatu last night.
Oh, yeah. Chris was telling me you guys were going.
And
how'd you like it?
I'm a big Dracula fan.
I knew you were when he showed it to me, because I hadn't heard of it, except that I'd heard about the guy who plays Nosferatu, and like I really like the actor that was playing him, but I don't know anything about it. And so when he told me, I was like, oh, that's definitely up Ty's alley.
Yeah, well, it's neat because like Dracula's always been popular and famous, but it seemed like with the exception of like Gary Oldman way back in the day, it's always just been like, you get the really big actors for the really big side stories, but the actual Dracula story's always been small or artsy fartsy or something like that. And I've seen so many bad Dracula shows, so many bad ones. So when I heard that this was coming out, but like even in the trailer, they're referring to.
Get it, Rye. Riley's finding her spot.
Yeah, for my pet bed is
Just chilling
in the
behind
office where we record, and the dog. You can take that out, right?
Yeah, whatever. It'll be fine.
So anyway, but like even in the trailers, they weren't using the characters' proper names, anything like that. They never referred to Dracula as Dracula. You know, it was always Nosferatu. So
Are they one and the same? I don't know Dracula, so.
Well,
Is
one's a
Nosferatu.
generic term and one's a specific name.
Okay.
So I was just like, I'm not sure if like they had the rights to it or not, or I thought the story was old enough that you didn't need rights for it anymore. I don't know how it works. Anyway, so I was all nervous. And then even how the trailer was, I was worried that it was going to be quite artsy fartsy, you know what I mean? Like a horror, but done with like real dramatic effects and over the top music. And so I was really nervous going into it. I came out absolutely loving it. The acting was phenomenal. The cinematography was fantastic. Like everything was just done really, really well. So I was really happy with it. Ian loved it, of course, as well. And then Chris was kind of on the fence, and Ryan just hated it.
Oh, Ryan didn't like it?
Yeah, he needs more guns and cars.
Yeah.
He said. So, but it
All
was
about
good.
family.
It was a nice break. The kids are going back to school by the time this comes out, or I guess it comes out Sunday. The kids will be back in school the next day, so it'll be nice to get back into the swing of things. I'm a fan of routine. I absolutely love having the kids home and my wife home, but I'm also a fan of routine. So when the break starts, I get excited, and when the break is done, I also get excited. So
Cool.
yeah. How about you? How's your back been? How are you?
Back
How was New
sucks,
Year's?
man. My back has been a pain in the butt, like really bad. And I went and had an adjustment. I think that kind of messed it up. Like it actually caused me some pain. It felt great after it was done, but so I talked a little bit about some exciting upcoming news for my back, which it's kind of like bittersweet. It's kind of a little bit exciting, but also like a kick in the balls. I got my consult appointment yesterday, and it's in July. So it's like 6 months away, which is really sucky. So I'm hoping there will be cancellations because it is a long time, but whatever. It's at least a direction and going forward with surgery. So it just sucks that it's that far away. So
Yeah.
Our week was good. We had everybody over for New Year's. That was fun. It's funny you were talking about your wife not going to the doctor. So our daughter had an infection, so Christina had to take her in.
Youngest or
Walk-ins
oldest
being-
daughter?
Oldest. The walk-ins are silly and not really walk-ins ever since COVID. They're like, you have to phone and make appointments, and
Yeah.
all these different things that you can go into outside of the ER have massive wait lists. And so Christina was trying to take herself and Sophia in because Christina had a sinus infection, and she couldn't get both of them in. She could only get Sophia in because there just wasn't enough space. So she got Sophia in so that we could get her on some antibiotics going in. But Christina needed the antibiotics because the sinus infection had gotten so bad. And she couldn't get in. So she went to go on Saturday. I think it was on Saturday. And could not get in anywhere. There was nowhere. And it was like the idea of going to emergency for a sinus infection is crazy. And so she called me and she was upset about it. So I just got annoyed and went online. And there's a service. I'm sure there's multiple services. I haven't really looked into them. There's a service that I went on to and I'd heard of, and I signed up for it. And I paid the money, so it sucks to have to pay the money. They have a monthly cost, but I canceled it after, like, for not having it ongoing. But I was talking to a doctor in 10 minutes. Got pictures, had her pull over to the side of the road, need a picture of her ID, asked for a picture of the back of her throat for checking to see if it was whatever, and then gave the diagnosis of sinusitis and the prescription. And literally in 10-15 minutes, I was talking to a doctor and had her prescription sent off to our pharmacy. So it was a bit annoying, but cool that it was like that. I just wish it was. I wish if it was cheaper, I would keep paying for it, but it's not. I think there's like other ones where you can pay like per visit, but I don't want to. We live in BC. Get out of here. We live in Canada. It's not supposed to be like that, but whatever. It worked. We got her what she needed. But yeah, the week was good. It was mostly just doing nothing. Besides getting ready for New Year's Eve, we played games with the kids, and I can't wait for them to go back to school. Yesterday was the first day, like actually getting back into work stuff, and I was losing my mind with them in the house because they're just like, I don't know, they're kids. When they see you, you're there. And this, they sometimes forget that it's like, just leave me alone for a little bit. But whatever, it's good. It's been a good week, and starting 2025, and work's about to get insanely busy again, which is, I like that stuff. So yeah, no complaints, man. Played a lot of Path of Exile and Path of Exile 2, if you're wondering. And
there's a lot of people still playing Path of Exile 1. Like
good for
obviously them. It's early access for PoE 2, but there's lots
That's true. It's not free.
There's lots of legit criticism towards the state of it, depending on how you start. And then there's a lot of people that are absolutely loving the experience. The setup they've chosen has worked well. And so there's a lot of people that, of course, didn't want to pay no matter what the state of the game is. But then there's people that, you hear both sides. You're like, I'm just going to wait a little bit. I mean, there's a lot of people in our Discord that I've read that said they're just going to wait till the official release. They're not going to bother helping out with the testing. And
yeah, I definitely can get it from I don't want to pay for it and want to wait till it's free. That totally is, I totally understand that side of it. Yeah, let's get into it. This week in PoE, they had the one little patch.
They had a hot fix like just yesterday or the day before, and it was just to fix like parts of. I don't know what the issues are, what kind of loopholes
There's
people
a
are
huge issue
using.
that happened.
Is it regarding the trial of Secamus?
Yeah, people were using some sort of exploit to effectively be able to dupe or guarantee very expensive unique drop. And from what I've understood about it, I would hope that they ban people for stuff like that.
I was going to ask, this is early access. Do you think people should be banned for exploiting a loophole in early access, even though all this stuff, I mean, they've said this stuff's not getting voided. It's technically just going in like a phantom league that's never going to be supported. So something less than standard. But I also
think even on that end, it's that they shouldn't have to stand by that exactly, especially if stuff is being brought in a duplicating or an exploity way. I think that if you find, or if you're playing in early access and there's some interaction that does something, there's a difference between like pretty obviously doing something you're not meant to do versus the game's just being weird and this happened. I think those are two very different things.
But people have to write a bug report, and to write a good bug report, you want to replicate the issue a few times, not 100 times, of course, but you want to make sure that you can reproduce this issue 100% of the time. So you do the issue 3, 4, 5 times. I don't think you do though. I think you look at it from you worked at a place where you did QA stuff, and the idea was I need to be able to replicate it. I don't think that that's the case for the average player. I think the average player finds something that is a bug and is working weird. I don't think that they should need to replicate it in order to report it. I do understand what you're saying when you're saying for it to be a good one or whatever. But there was again, I don't know all the details, but just from what I've read, these people were very much aware that they were breaking the rules and doing things that they shouldn't be doing. And so, I mean, I don't like the idea of people being banned or whatever, but I have zero problem with it if you are outside of the scope of what, not even just a normal player should be doing, but if you are straight up breaking the rules. Intentional abuse, and that kind of attitude's just childish.
I don't agree on the end of like, and this is just the way I play the game. The idea of like, it breaks the economy. I don't care about that. I don't care if somebody has 7 billion times more what I have, that makes no difference to me. It doesn't change how I play. I understand that it has an effect on prices, but for me, that just changes maybe what I want to try out. It doesn't change my experience of playing the game, but I don't think that they want it being known that, hey, it's fine if you find an exploit and then abuse it So anyway, yeah, they did patch that real quick. I would expect that like the day this comes out, we'll see patches. I think we'll see Monday, Tuesday next week. I'm hopeful for, you know, some big patch notes this coming week.
Definitely, yeah.
So yeah, but this one was just a funny little one of like, okay, I don't know what they're gonna do about it. Like if they'll do some post up as to why or explain what happened or what they're doing about it. But yeah, I saw that little one and was like, oh, they're on it.
I don't think it's really like, I know there's curiosity out there, but I don't think people exploiting the game, I don't think it's anybody's business except for GGGs. You ban it, you fix it, you do what you need to do. You don't need an explanation.
I think telling people that you ban though, if you're going to ban, is a good idea. If people ban, like to just at least show that, hey, it's not okay. And if this comes up in the future, you should probably not do it. That's all I'm saying. That was
where I was going was, if it's something that they think that the fan base could easily replicate or a situation could occur in the future where there's that, then yeah, kind of explain, but not in a way where you're giving people ideas. Sure. You know what I mean? Like it's tough. Yeah. Like there's a balance there. So, but I don't think that there's like this black and white rule where companies required to explain to who got banned. Definitely. If I got banned for something, I would definitely want to know why.
Totally.
But
I agree. So that was it though. But I'm hopeful for. I was actually thinking about it before we were recording, like what my wish list is for you know, the first week of patches and how my characters have been playing and what the gameplay's been like. And I still stand by my biggest hope ever is that on death effects just go away. I know it's not going to.
I'm with you. I mean, dream on, but I am 100% with you.
I'm hoping in the patch notes we just see a like, whoops, we forgot to take that out.
Yeah, that's right. We copied those from PoE 1 accidentally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we also accidentally put in life regen on rare mobs as you're leveling.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't run into too many. I've run into some crappy modifiers, but nothing that I haven't been able to at least maybe over a longer fight take out. But I do still think that they need to have some sort of tiering system, or not tiering system, but certain mods just can't combo with other certain mods. I just think sometimes it's a little bit frustrating. But the on death one is just I was realizing. So we'll talk about like what we've been playing and stuff, but killing rares is just and again, this could just be me in the way I play, but I'm killing the rare and then always moving away from it and waiting because I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if I actually can't tell a lot of the times if it's about to explode. I can't tell if sometimes I can't see those purple balls that are tiny and then they explode very quickly. I can't tell if there's
channel in Discord, there was one where there literally was no animation. Nothing happened. And then they exploded.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, and that's a problem. Like if something doesn't render glitch, properly, right? It takes a lot of the fun out of it for me. And then couple that with the whole like single portal system, which is a real big hope for me that's something that they go back on is they move away from this single portal to maps. I think
it's a tough one for me.
Why though? I can't get the reason for it. I just don't get it.
See, for me, GGG doesn't make a good enough game to do a single portal experience. They're not like that hardcore experience doesn't suit GGG. They're too complacent, right? Like they're mod combinations of rares. The whole game now revolves around rares, from what I understand about endgame. You have to have a very good control and handle on the combinations that can arise. But they're fine with build bricking stuff. They're fine with absurd combinations with certain base types. And that just doesn't match a fun per hour experience. So even if it's something you can eventually do, is it something that the user's enjoying? And so when you have is even when like they're figuring out and learning, and with some of their bosses, they're really good at it, but not with every boss, the tells that bosses have for, hey, something dangerous is coming. When you want to get better at an experience, you need to be able to try it again or understand why you failed. So if you have like a 6 portal experience for boss encounters, but then for non-boss encounters, it's a rare experience, or it's a one portal experience. I don't mind something like that, but GGG needs to be much more involved in the rules they have, like you said, about mod combinations on rare enemies, or on the combinations that arise between a mod and an enemy base type, or even just there's just some mods that I don't understand what GGG is thinking when they're like, yes, this mod makes the game more fun, more experience. It's a challenge that they're going to enjoy. So now those are my preferences in terms of what I find fun. So they're not necessarily criticisms, but from what I find fun, GGG's too complacent of a company with their rare situation to have a hardcore experience as the core element of the game.
I haven't found any build bricking situations with regards to like mods that can roll on waystones, and even rares. There have been some that are just not fun to fight, and I do understand the challenge side of things, but I think I can't wrap my head around the idea of a single portal. I have, as much, I've played a lot and I still can't figure out what the I understand the challenge that's involved, but I can't understand the reason behind it. I was trying to think about it, there's this new system where you're getting the towers and you're putting precursors, and it's having an effect on the different map locations. And so it's adding maybe breach, or it's adding rituals, or it's adding bosses. And this idea that if you fail it once, those modifiers disappear. So you have to rerun that node, but those additional things that you had on that map are gone. So I can kind of understand from that point of view, because they can't have it where I get one with a boss and a breach and a ritual and an expedition, because you can juice them up pretty big, and then constantly just run that node over and over and over. I do understand like that concept, but my feeling is like if I open a map to that one location, that it's only good for that one run, regardless of whether I take 6 maps or I die in all of them. I can't redo that node with those modifiers on it. The single experience into the zone is just annoying, because I play differently. Maybe that's what they want, but it sucks when you lose it to something. Like, one thing with controller support, I can't mouse over afterwards. I have zero way of finding out what was the modifier on that rare. Like, what did I miss? There's nothing. There's no way for me to see. Like, at least on PC, I can move the mouse around and they might be jumping all over the place, but I can at least mouse over the different mobs. I can't, and I'm actually preferring controller, so I don't want to switch. But it's one thing is when I'm dead, you're just dead. Your button is resurrect. I can't click a button to clear that screen to see something or whatever. So it just makes it really hard to understand like what actually killed me. And I talked about this last week too. It takes away from the enjoyment of walking past a breach and just continuing to walk past it until I clear the map, and then I'll come back and do the breach. Like, it's too much backtracking in these large zones. It's not fun. So I don't know what the answer is. I feel like go back to 6 portals though, and then find a solution some other way to make the game work the way that you want it to, because I'm not finding the one portal thing I can't find any reason behind it. I've not seen a legitimate explanation as to why, besides just to make it harder. And the only thing that I can think of is that it puts that risk of, here's the modifiers that are on this area and you can't get them back, which I think that's fair. I wouldn't want it where I just ran the same node over and over and over because it had the modifiers I wanted on it, but there's got to be a better way.
What about, so they've obviously made decisions that revolve around the hardcore experience, right? Where it's just one portal.
Definitely a more hardcore experience, yeah.
Right. So they've made some design choices around that. What do you think if they decided to succumb to the idea, let's say that they thought that was a good fix and they're going back to the 6 portal situation where you and your party can use those 6 portals in any way you like, go in, go out, die, fine, come back in. What changes do you think they would need to make to the game or end game to accommodate 6 portals? What do you think really suits only a 1 portal experience?
I don't think it should be 6 portals come in and come out. Like I think if you run with a party of 6, everybody gets one portal and that's it for the zone, especially in a new game where you can resurrect other players.
Sorry, I was trying to describe what the first game was like. So a portal experience like the first game, what do you think they would need to change to?
The only thing that I can think of is that you need to make sure that once that map is loaded, once that waypoint is loaded for that node on the atlas, that the modifiers to that node on the atlas disappear, so that you cannot run a node, just keep running the same node because it has all these extra league mechanics. But other than that, I can't see any other necessary change. I think there's no, I mean, literally I can't. I can't think of a single reason why you would want to limit someone to one time in the map. The only thing that I can think of is that you would want to limit the one time a waystone can open on an atlas an atlas point with all those modifiers. That part I totally understand, totally get it. That makes sense to me. But I think that what originally happened was they had this idea, and they've gone back on it, but they had this idea that, hey, here's all your atlas points, but if you fail it, you got to work around it because that's now a dead end. That doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. And so I think it originally came from that idea. You failed an atlas point, you got to work your way around a different. That to me, I can understand like that made sense at the time. That I still don't agree with it, but they went back on that, and now you die. The modifiers are gone, but you can still run it, and you kind of have to because the atlas is not built yet, I don't think, well enough that allows for easily traversing a dead node. There are some cases where one single node, you need that node to get through to a different area. Like it is the only junction point. But other than that, I can't. Besides the modifiers to the atlas point, I can't see what the harm is in going back to the normal portal system. I just feel like for me, I feel like I'm lacking learning the way that it is. And that could be a controller support thing because I don't have any way of pulling it up. But the fact is, if I'm being like relatively honest on this, my characters are set up pretty defensively. So I know it's not, I was lacking fire resist. You know what I mean? It's not something basic.
Yeah.
It's understanding what was the mod on that I missed, or what happened. Like I had to turn on whatever NVIDIA's thing is. It records. I dropped it way down because I think by default it's like records your 10 minutes of footage. I dropped it down to 40 seconds. That was for that purpose of me trying to learn. If I died, I hitting Alt Z and quickly bringing up, having it save the clip so that I can rewatch it to try and figure out like what did I miss? Like the clip I sent you, I missed the purple things. I just didn't see them. They're very small, and when things are happening quick, it's very hard to see. It's so funny because I posted it and I had some great responses in the sense of like, oh, this is how you could deal with this or whatever. But then there's also people like, well, it's right there. It's like, okay, but first off, if I finished fighting, I would have dealt with it. I think an Exalt or 2 dropped. Like there were good drops on the ground. I feel it's weird that my gameplay style right now is kill the rare, roll away, and then wait. Like, oh, did it? I don't know. Is that a safe one? I don't know if that's you. Like, you don't have both. Pick. If you want to have explodey things, don't do a for fun, cool looking one. That's just like, hey, you killed the rare. Here's a cool animation. But I really hope that they do something on the portal side, because I feel like a single experience into the map right now is too hardcore. It's too unnecessary. And then you're just the loss of loot is frustrating. It's just, I don't feel like I'm learning anything by it besides like, okay, that sucks. On to the next one.
And GGG's come a long way from Path of Exile 1 to Path of Exile 2 in terms of trying to teach the user what's happening.
Totally.
But it's not good enough yet. Like you can't compare Path of Exile 1 to anything because Path of Exile 1 was garbage in any type of user feedback at all. They didn't like teach you anything. Right. Yeah. So sure, like no matter what you do, you're going to be better than Path of Exile 1 in terms of teaching the user, but it's still not good enough. If you're going to have a hardcore experience, you can't have mixed, like the colors of your the enemy damage needs to be extremely consistent, and you can't have mixed damage types, right? Like if you have something that's yellow coming at you, well, what's yellow? What kind of damage is yellow? Fire is red and orange. Cold is blue. Lightning's blue. For whatever reason, they both are blue. Chaos damage is either green or purple. Like, so now all of a sudden you're getting shot with yellow. It's like, okay, well, what? My resists are caps, but what is it that I'm supposed to be working on here, right? Or when you have enemy damage that comes at you and it's partly physical and partly cold, a user needs, if you have a hardcore experience, the user has to know what's happening in the fight. You can't be guessing. And so GGG still has, for the hardcore experience, a better way to, GGG still has a long way to go in terms of, in that moment, teaching the user what's going on. Even when you pause the game, like with controller, if you, pardon me?
Go ahead, finish that point.
I was just going to say, when you pause the game, so not when you bring up your character screen, but when you pause the game on controller support, you can scroll down to the bottom and like hit right on those icons
thing or whatever, which I like. I do like that, but not if you're dead. If you're dead, you can't see anything.
That's right. Yeah. But so like it's coming. That kind of stuff is coming. But I just hope that the integrity of wanting to teach the user what's happening before you're dead versus maybe succumbing to the 6 portal thing. I don't think they're related. Like, I don't think you create the 6 portals, like, you know what I mean? Or sorry, you give the user the opportunity to use all 6 portals. Your map's not closed after 1 death, in lieu of helping the user understand more about what's going on in combat. You know what I mean? I still think
I do
that
understand what you're saying, but the fact is I can't see the information when I'm dead. And it was so like, and I think I said this actually in like our first episode when we first started with the resetting of the zone and the mobs respawning. I never got the chance to like get back at that mob and learn like what was that mob doing that I missed. So I don't know what the full solution is, but somehow I hope some solution comes with being able to get back into a waystone and complete it and actually work my way through it. I just, or an explanation as to what the reason is. Like, what is it that they are wanting to stop or control by giving only the one entrance? Because it doesn't match up. If I open it with a normal portal map control device, there's 6 there. Why does my death close it? Like, give me some lore. Give me something that explains what happened in the 10, 20 years since Path of Exile 1 that we've lost the ability to keep that portal open. Is there some lore behind that? Because then I can take it. I can't argue it. I wouldn't know anyway.
Well, still, but it doesn't change the fun per hour aspect, even if there is a lore reason, right?
Yeah, I mean, my fun has been very, very high. Good. But it has been mixed with frustration, but not to the same degree that I probably was earlier on. I think what I've just learned to do is adapt a little bit, but I do also feel like I've been limited in my ability to adapt because I still haven't quite fully grasped what they're doing with some stuff. So like I played, and I'm now on, so I got the witch. I think she got to like 94th Ascension. I played her the week before. The witch, I feel like I'm playing your character. I feel like this is like, it's boring for me. I just run around. My minions kill things and I just run around. Every now and then I can curse if I want to. Every now and then I can detonate dead to clear a little bit faster. Besides minion AI and dealing with doors, which I don't know that they'll fix. There's this weird thing. So like, what was the skill again? Where you yank them to you. Start with a C in PoE 1.
Convocation.
It doesn't exist in PoE 2, but they have this like weird thing where you can swap weapons, which then obviously changes your spirit allocation. So all your minions disappear, and then you swap weapons back and your minions pop up right on top of you. Maybe that's what their solution is. It's kind of weird because it allows you to stack minions, which Convocation would have done, right? The Convocation would have stacked minions on top of you, and that's essentially what this weapon swapping does. I just don't enjoy it. It's not fun for me. I don't like the idea that I have to swap out weapons, make all my minions disappear, swap weapons back, and now they're right on top of me.
The cooldown wasn't a cooldown for your skeletons when you swap?
Well, the only thing that matters is if they were already dead and in the timer, they're still in that, like you're not bypassing that timer if they were dead, right? So if there was a timer started, I'm not getting to bypass that timer by swapping weapons. I'm still stuck in a cooldown, and it can actually be painful for you if you're not careful about when you weapon swap. But there's no cooldown in the sense of like weapon swapping and minions come right back out. They pop up as soon as your weapon swap is complete and your new weapons are out. So it works. It works like Convocation used to work, but I just don't. I'm using it literally to get through doorways, and that I just got tired of doing it. So I played the monk, got the monk up to like 88 or 89. So much fun with the monk. Like I had a blast. I was flying. It was definitely the fastest leveling I had been doing. I was playing with Ice Strike. It was really cool to like. It was almost a PoE 1-ish feel, like where I could get an Ice Strike to proc with Herald of Ice, with this porcelain ring, this sapphire ring that I had, this unique, and it would just like explode the minions because of the way it would interact with those two things.
You mean enemies? Explode the enemies?
Yeah. What did I say?
Minions. So I just want to make sure that I was understanding your build. Yep. Good. Idiot.
So it felt good and it was fun, but it wasn't. I don't know. There was something missing. I would get frustrated if I died because, again, I wasn't really figuring it out. But I also was like, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just, I can clear really, really well. But, up against bosses or whatever, it's not the thing for me. So I decided to go back to the warrior. So I've been playing the warrior again. But I didn't like the warrior on the first week. I felt way too slow.
Did you go back to the original character or did you start a new character?
I couldn't start a new one, even though I wanted to try a Warbringer. Like, that's one thing that sucks. Once you pick the Ascendancy, you're kind of stuck to it. So I was like, well, how can I make the Titan work? I love Sunder. I really want to do Sunder. So I started to play around with using the totems and Sunder. And I know it probably would have been stronger as a Warbringer, but it's been a ton of fun. Like, I have had so much fun playing this build. Currently, I've got it up to 88, I think. Has not done the third ascension, the fourth ascension. I've done the third one. It is actually feeling more the style I want to play. It's not super fast, but I can do all the content. Boss fights actually feel like boss fights, which I'm enjoying. Like, I have to be defensive. I have to think about it. I'm not one-shotting them and they disappear. But I'm actively involved in the fight versus with the minions. I was just like, I'll just chill over here. You guys do your thing. I'm actively in the fight and I like that part of it, but it's not so fast that I'm like, okay, this is kind of broken and not fair. So it's been a lot of fun. I've also learned about a lot of the skills that I didn't play with when I was first going through, because now I'm playing with a shield because I worked up to getting Giant's Blood. I wanted to be able to have the two-hander and a shield because I feel like defense is really important because I'm doing T15s with all my guys, but it's really hard to figure out defense, at least from the Titan side. But I wanted a shield, so I was playing with skills that I hadn't tried. Resonating Shield's so much fun.
What does it do?
You just like, your guy just like walks around and like smacks his shield with his weapon, and it breaks armor around you, but you're also actively blocking while you're doing it. So it's like the full active block.
The block action, not the statistical one, but the action one.
You're active. Yeah, but you are actually blocking. Like, you're not. So it's been a lot of fun trying to figure, because I'm using that basically to break the armor, because Sunder has a just built-in consumes fully broken armor to crit. Okay. So my totems then consume that fully broken armor from the resonating shield, and they're critting, and it's been fun. I haven't totally figured out exactly how I want it, and it's not good enough yet for like bosses take much longer than I would have wanted them to, but I don't know if I'm just old or what it is, but people have talked to me about trying out the 2 passive tree weapon swap, whatever the thing is in the tree now, where you can have multiple. I just haven't spent time doing it, but it makes my brain confused. I'm just like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Am I supposed to hold down A on this one? And does it always work? I haven't really figured that part out, but that is my next plan with this guy, is to is to figure out something that's more single target with Hammer of the Gods, just because it's really good damage. But it's been fun. It's been a fun experience. I mentioned I did the Gemling helped me with getting the 4th Ascension on my monk, because I could not. I did it on the witch by myself, but I did it in the Sekima. So I had to fight that 4th boss, and I only did it because I added blink. I don't know if you remember, it was annoying because I had to figure out the last mechanic and zooming around. And with the monk, I didn't want to like have to swap a skill, because the monk is fast, but it doesn't have like a blink type of skill that's going to, I'm moving to an enemy. I need the enemy there for me to be able to jump to it. So anyway, we did it through the ultimatum way. So you have to collect, I bought these like 3, I don't know, stone things that you collect them from doing more ultimatums. You just keep doing ultimatums and hope that you get lucky and get all 3 of them. But you put all 3 of them into the door, and then you fight the trial master. So
your 4th Ascension, you don't have to do like the trial and then fight the trial master.
You have to get to the end of the stage 10, and then once it's beat, there's a door behind it, and that's where you insert the sockets, and then you go and fight the trial master. Thankfully, not all the stuff from the ultimatum is affecting your fight with the trial master. That being said, we I don't want to beat a dead horse, because we both I won't speak for you. I think trials are silly. I don't like how we have to ascend right now. I just don't like it.
No, you can speak for me. That's fine.
But multiple times we had to restart the run, because either we were doing it with, there were 2 of us, first 3 of us, but then 2 of us in the end. The modifiers right off the bat, as soon as we ran in, the modifier was like, oh my God, these are the 3 choices to start. No, let's just restart. Like, it was easier to just leave, grab another stone, throw it in, and do it. That's
not a good setup.
It's not a fun way to ascend. I think that's silly. I get that should exist for people to farm it. There is benefit to farming ultimatums and to farming these trials. There's items. Let people do it. The people that love it, let them do it. Don't make everybody do it. But the trial master fight was fun. It was a hard fight. Like, it was actually tough, and it was enjoyable. And the tells, thankfully Gemling was really good about giving me some information before we went in to understand of like what to watch out for, and this is what's going to happen. So it was really cool. I can't imagine for a person who's never played before to have farmed that many ultimatums to finally get to that fight, and then be trying to learn that fight in the fight when it took all that RNG to get to the fight. Like, that would suck for your 4th Ascension. Like, that's not a fun way to do it. So I have now done both ways of getting the 4th Ascension, and my poor warrior, I'm like, you're screwed, bud. You're sitting at 3 points. That's all you're getting. But yeah, so I have done them both. But you know what? In general, I am having a lot of fun. I still don't quite figure out the Atlas. I'm still working on trying to figure out, what am I doing? What am I aiming for? I know there's these citadels. I think they're very hard to see. You can tell, I think, that the end game is still lacking, which they rush to get out in time. There's a lot of areas that are probably lacking, but end game feels not done yet. Like, the Atlas, like, have you done the Atlas yet? Are you into the Atlas? Because I know you were just about finished, right?
No.
Did you finish Act 3? Cruel?
No.
Well, the nodes on the Atlas, there is a legend. I've never actually looked at the legend specifically for the colors, but the colors just it's not clear enough, like, where, at least for me, you've got white, light blue, yellow, and green are the colors of these nodes that they can change. White is, you haven't done it yet. Light blue is ones you can do. Yellow is the one you just did, and green is ones you've done, something to that effect. It's not very clear.
So green doesn't mean go. Green means don't go.
Yeah, light blue is go. So it's taken me every single time I log into play, trying to like refigure out where am I going and where can I go from here.
The stoplights that people have around the world is
green for
universal?
Go would be great, but I don't know that you can change it now.
Red means stop. Don't.
Yes. So figuring that out, and it's really hard to find these citadels, which I think, from my understanding, is you want to find 3 citadels, then find this other thing, fiery thing, and then you place the 3 stones at that thing to fight some boss. I have no idea haven't seen anything but a stone citadel yet. So I've only seen one out of the 3. And I've never seen whatever this fire thing is that people say is on the atlas. So I have yet to find them, and I have searched, and I have gone very far out. So, but the mapping experience for me has been fun. It's been challenging. It's been, I've enjoyed it. I think armor sucks. And it was crazy how much easier it was to make my witch and monk feel tankier than a warrior.
What was it with your witch? Just the fact that you were 1 out of 30 allies? Okay.
Well, and Infernalist.
Okay.
So Infernalist has all these, take this damage as this.
Yes.
But ES, being able to take the note for the Infernalist to pump up ES, then you combine that with Grim Feast and a shield, which just actively has, percentage chance to block, plus minions or just whatever. And then Infernalist again for the Hound. Like there were it had so many tools to make it feel defensive. The Monk evasion just feels better than armor has felt. My Monk has like 1700 health and like 600 ES, which even with 600 ES, I'm running Grim Feast, which feels gross. As much as I love Grim Feast on the Witch, it feels gross that I'm using it on the Monk. I feel more defensive than my guy who's like a warrior beast, massive shield. I'm pumping up armor. And so you've got this resonating block where you're actively blocking. Feels so good when I'm in that mode. When I'm in that mode, I feel great. And then I have to throw down a totem and I feel like a little, I almost said a word probably shouldn't say. I feel like a wimp. I have to quickly drop my shield, throw down a totem, and then quickly get the shield back up. Because in that time, it doesn't matter if they're big guys or little guys. I'm struggling.
You go from being Captain America, all juiced up, to Steve Rogers before the juice, and then you go back to Captain America.
There's this weird rush of me trying to hit the buttons fast enough to get it out because it just feels like there's no. I just feel like it's not doing much. It's kind of weird too because I went blood magic. I was talking with Alon, and I love blood magic. It was always one of my favorite skills in PoE 1. I still like it in PoE 2. I love not having to be worried about mana. But in PoE 1, blood magic was surrounded by life stuff, more regen, more whatever, life stuff. PoE 2, that's not the case. And so I have life regen, but I don't feel like I have enough life regen totems are incredibly expensive to throw out. Right. So every time I throw out a totem, I'm spending a boatload of my health.
I know that feeling. My curses are 200 mana.
Yeah, right. You were talking about yours being really high. Yeah. Resonating Shield, while it's an active block, it's also a skill. So I'm spending life to do it. Right.
Oh, interesting.
So, which is fair. That makes sense. But I also have to be careful because I'm degenning, or not degenning, but I'm spending health to do it. But it's been a very big struggle for me to find life regen outside of items, and I don't really want to search for items that have specifically life regen. I have some on my items, and I'm working on the tree to I'm trying to find ways to make my guy not feel like he's just
a wet noodle in a pool.
Yeah, his damage feels good. How do I make him more tanky and more survivable? And I know that I can go the PoE 1 route. I'm relatively close of just here's my +1s to resists. Here's how I can get my resists up to 79, 80%. I do understand that there's value to that, but I just feel like armor hasn't done me any good. It just doesn't feel like I wanted to play my guy. We watched Gladiator 2. I was like, let me just smash a shield. And now I feel like I've got the damage there, but I'm also this idea of my guy holding a shield and feeling like he's super strong to when he has to throw out a totem. I feel like he's screaming and then putting it back. The shield goes back up.
Is it Harry? No, Marv in Home Alone. That perfect scream that he does.
Yeah. So I have had a ton of fun, and I wouldn't be playing the game. I haven't had any desire to play a different game. It's been surprising how much fun I've had getting onto the game. I don't really have a draw to play any other character types. Besides maybe something ranged might be kind of fun, but I don't know if I'm at the point yet where I'm willing to do the run through the axe twice again.
Yeah.
But I have had fun. I'm enjoying trying to figure out this Atlas, trying to figure out what they're doing with Endgame, and trying to like alter my builds around a little bit and how can I make them stronger. But I'm sort of hitting this like 89, 90 cap and just going like, okay, I need something to do something else. We'll see if the warrior is like that, because the warrior, I feel like I finally hit my stride with how I want to play a character. The monk was way too just zoomy and like jumping all over the screen, and it felt cool. It was really fun to see a whole screen explode, but it just wasn't what I was wanting. I want my witch in a warrior. I want to feel like I can do all of the content, but I want to feel like I'm doing the content. And the witch, I can do all the content. The content, I could fly. If I wanted to, I could stick with the witch and just stay with the witch. I would be easily well into my mid 90s for sure, because it just doesn't die. It's just slower. I go through the map slower. It takes me longer to clear the map, but I don't die. I'll get through the map and I'll be fine. I want that with the warrior. I want to find this balance of doing that with the warrior, but I want to feel like I'm the one doing the damage. So yeah, it's been fun.
Awesome.
Tell me where you're at, because we played a little bit last week, like this week.
Yeah, I haven't progressed past that point where you and I played together. I've played with Chris, who started playing recently, right, yeah. But of course we're starting back at the beginning of Act 1, and then
what did you start?
I just kept my character.
Oh, okay.
And then my wife just progressed into Cruel.
Okay, cool.
No, she's finishing.
I thought she was already
No, she's finishing Act 3. So she's getting into the absolute hell of the leveling experience with the, what are they called? The witch hags or whatever they're called.
River hags.
River hags. Yeah. And like all that
what
crazy.
Is she playing?
All of a sudden, those things are green. So who knows what kind of damage.
What is she playing?
She's doing a warrior.
She's gonna hate them.
No, she's doing totems.
Oh, okay, cool.
With the allies that show up, and she's quite enjoying it for sure. When she's broadcasting, she's having an absolute
Warbringer,
blast.
right?
Yeah, I forget which one it is, whether it's Titan or Warbringer. The whatever.
It's not Titan.
Okay, the one with the totems. Yeah. But when we're playing, we've had to restart some instances just because of mod combinations on a rare. Like there's just some life regen ones where we're just like, what are we supposed to do? It's Act 3.
Yeah.
Right. Sucks. Like I have 25, 30 nodes on the tree. What am I supposed to do with this life regen right now? So
I love it. Back in PoE one days, people are like, just use Ice Bomb. Just use this skill. It's like, that's not what I should have to do.
Right. Yeah. Let me run around with my required skills in this theory crafting game. So anyway, we've come across some frustrating situations, but she was able to do the river. She was more persistent in the river hag area than I was. With my character, I was just like, I don't like, this isn't fun. I would rather run through this whole area, just like skip it, just sprint past everybody.
But she's like,
to the next
can't leave
section.
That bitch back there. I'm going to.
Well, yes, she has a little bit more of a vindictive heart, I guess you could say.
I get
it. She needed to murder them. So we did fight our way through, which the co-op experience was fun. The experience of gameplay was not, just because of what that is, like those circumstances we were in of needing to run around in circles until we had a moment to attack when it's just a whole bunch of normals. That wasn't a fun experience. You know, you get 4 river hags on one screen, and so hopefully that's one of the things that maybe some of these patches will, whenever it is that they come up, whenever the patches come up. But so I haven't progressed past the point where you and I stopped. I mean, maybe I've done 1 or 2 areas.
I thought you played a little bit, but yeah, we got to the start of Act 3 Cruel.
Yeah. But for whatever reason, I don't know if it's my skill. I don't know how the coding works for when you have, what's it called in a party? We deal with it all the time, but when you're downscaling. Yeah. So I've been using Decaying Hex as my, I guess, backup damage, not necessarily primary damage, but this is the damage I'm going to do. And then if I have a moment, I'll use Essence Drain or Incinerate, depending on which hexes I've decided to use at the time. So Decaying Hex is kind of like I guess you could say my normal damage.
Can I ask you, is Incinerate the same as it was before?
No, it's still very like a channel. It's still
okay.
a channel skill, but it functions very differently.
Okay, sorry.
It's okay. It's very narrow, and I don't like how narrow it is. And it has an AoE tag, but when I put increased AoE, I forget what it's called now, but when I put increased AoE on it, all it does is change the length. It didn't change the width.
Oh, it doesn't change the width. Oh, and you need girth too.
Yeah, right? Because once you get more girth, you never go back. We'll pretend that
can't have one without the other. That is interesting that it just makes it go further.
Well, it was disappointing, but again, if that's the design, that's the design. It's just, but for me, area of effect is width. It's
for sure.
girth, right? So that was a little disappointing, but I love how the skill functions. Like at the end of the day, what I'm like, I've changed my build. I completely respect. I spent about like 55,000 gold on different things. I'm level 50 something, so that was the majority of my tree. That I think only 3 nodes stayed the same. So I'm now on my 4th or 5th respec. Maybe it's just chance.
Same direction, with the
very different. At the end of the day, the playstyle will be the same, but every mechanic behind my build is completely different.
Cool.
So I can explain in a quick sec, but I feel like I'm just. Well, no, I feel like every build idea I come up with is really sucking. But I'm not an idiot when it comes to PoE. It's just I just need a balance of damage and defense, right? And because there's no life on the tree, I feel like I can spread that out a lot easier now, right? Like instead of needing to separate it between 3, 4, or 5 things, my nodes right now are just basically like energy, shield, and damage. And there's a decent amount of both on the tree. And I just, for whatever reason, it seems to be the skills that I'm choosing to play or the method I'm choosing to play. They're just weak. Like they're just not balanced. And that's what I think it is, because I feel like I've like respect my trees in minor ways to be like, okay, like it's just weak. Maybe it is a balance issue. Maybe it's not. Maybe, I need to invest more on the tree and it's just that different from PoE 1. But I'm just so weak all the time. Even like I've even done a tree where it was just 90% offense. And
is it the skills that you're picking then?
That's what I think it is. So I'm just by chance, maybe I'm just picking the weakest skills. And then there's other times where I'm like, okay, this is an idea that I really want to do. Let's just throw out everything I've done. Let's retry this. And then it just so happens that everything that I want to do unlocks really late. Like sacrifice unlocks really late. Burning Inscription unlocks at support level 3.
Yep.
And so there's not a lot at all that interests me at level 1 or even level 2. And I'm finding that the limit of only having one support of a certain type for your entire build, the game's not ready for that in the leveling experience. Once you have everything unlocked, there's a lot of variety there. But as you're leveling, I'm finding that there's some skills where I'm just like, there's literally nothing that helps me right now. I'll have an empty socket. I'll throw something on there, but it doesn't help the build at all. You know what I mean? So I just don't think that there's enough variety, just currently in this current state of early access. I know they're going to be adding tons of stuff. So looking forward to that whenever that is. And I'm really hoping that there's some redemption whenever it is that they come out with like another wave of skill balance changes for early access. I'm really hoping that some of my skills are on there just for a little bit of redemption.
That are damage skills, or are you finding ways to make supportish one? I'm just curious. Are you trying to find ways to make supportish ones do damage, or are you actually using the damaging skills? Because I don't remember which ones you're using.
Yeah, no problem. So Decaying Hex is a support that does damage. Burning Inscription, I haven't unlocked yet, but once I do, that is also a support that does damage. At the end of the day, that's what I would like to do damage with. Impending Doom is Curse. The skill doesn't say specifically if it hits or not, but it does a chaos burst damage when a curse expires. I've been trying to make those work, but for the leveling process itself, it's not very strong. So I've succumbed to completely respecking and going like 90% into cold and spell damage with Frostbolt. I've tried using Incinerate with as primary damage and completely respecting all into fire damage, and still using support or skills that support that damage, like flammability or hypothermia. I'm going through, and so there have been times where I have completely invested into some of these skills, and they're not good. And so when I went back to play with Chris, I was using Decaying Hex. It literally does nothing when I'm downscaled.
We were talking about that. That was the down. Yeah, the downscaling is a little funny if you were actually doing nothing.
Well, but that's the thing. Like I was comfortable with that, with the damage of my character, when I was playing on my own. And then I went to go downscale.
You're like,
and I was like,
this bad.
It's literally ticking 1 damage down. Like I'm watching the damage of decaying hex on this normal enemy just drop by 1 and 1.
What about your other skills? Like, what if you use like Essence Drain or Incinerate? Were they still?
It was a completely different
so I wonder
universe.
If there's just some sort of like,
so
something's messed up.
As I was attempting to say before, but I got sidetracked a little bit. I don't know how coding works for downscaling, but a couple of my skills, not just decaying hex, but that there was some skills that I was using that I'm like, oh my goodness. Like I played with Chris when I had a huge amount of investment into my offense.
He was like, man, you really, really suck.
It's like, I'm glad your skills are defensive and then of course I was trying a few things out with my wife when she was playing. I'd respec just a small amount, tweak this, try this out, tweak this, try this out. So just recently I did a complete full respec. I think I said it was my 5th one, and I'm enjoying CI. I like that focus. To me, it's the easiest in my brain, even if there's more consequence that comes with it, not being able to use a life flask, needing to find moments of pure safety. It's a more natural experience for me. So as I get used to the game, that will probably be my preferred method of playing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, did you spec out of it?
Well, yes and no. So there's been a few people that have been very, very kind in Discord and kind of trying to throw some ideas or videos my way about like, hey, check these out. I know you've been having a tough time with certain ideas, but end game, look at what these people are doing. And so some of them have been pretty cool. And so one of the ideas and this idea existed in Path of Exile as well, but not to the same extent, but it was just doing pure mana as your life. So doing something like CI and Eldritch Battery, right?
Remind me again, Eldritch Battery is the one
Eldritch Battery just converts all of your energy shield into mana. Now, Eldritch Battery works a little bit different.
You can do that with CI?
Well, so you don't have to go CI. But CI still makes it that you're immune to chaos damage.
Sure.
Right. Yeah. And then technically bleed as well. It's still the same situation. Now, Eldritch Battery in Path of Exile 2 currently, and it doesn't say this. So, and there's been a few things that I've been trying where I'm like, the game isn't telling me what's going on. So a tiny bit more needs to be said. Kind of like just that extra little bit where the user shouldn't have to think so hard that they would be immune to bleed damage if they go CI. Like there's just that missing gap of information there if you're caring about letting the user know. You know what I mean?
Does bleed specifically? I haven't paid enough attention. I know it has to hit health. And but that being said, I think that's why they've made energy shields so strong. Like even on my monk, picking up 700 ES and then taking Grim, whatever it's called, made sense. Yeah. Because it makes it way more defensive. But anyway, sorry.
Yeah. And I guess I know that I'm technically not immune. I can bleed on my 1 life when I'm CI, but just there's still that gap there of bleed doesn't impact you, right? Because when bleed, it talks about bypassing energy shield. I think they're using the wrong keyword there. Yeah. So, but anyway, so when I'm using Eldritch Battery, it only applies the flat energy shield.
Right.
To my mana. It doesn't. None of your percentage. So I can't invest in energy shield nodes on the tree. Yep. So I had like 1,200, 1,400. That was the same
in PoE1.
Okay. Yeah. So I had 1,400 energy shield, and then all of a sudden, and like 700 mana, 800 mana, and then I go and all of a sudden I'm at 1,200 mana. So now I have less mana than I had energy shield, right? But now, of course, it's like going. Well, what's the node for life where it's like everything's life, you have no mana? It's basically doing the same thing, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Where the damage you take is also what you're spending for your skills. I'm doing 2 curses, so I'm doing like 400 mana per cast in a way. And it's triggering. Whenever my minions die, I'm losing 400 light. Right. Basically, right? But the reason that this was that interesting to me was because now mind over matter is 100% of your damage is taken from your mana, not partial. So I do really like that. And then, of course, then there's a few options for, not many for mana. There's a lot more on the tree for life. There's only, I think, 3 nodes on the tree for mana, where damage you take, you can recoup as mana.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's not bad because the Chronomancer does care about recoup. I know the first node is just for life, but if I remember correctly, the second node is recoup in general. It's not life specific. So anyway, I can go with Mind Over Matter for now, and it takes all the damage I take and throws it onto, and it makes it so that it's mana. Okay, so now I'm immune to poison, right? And Eldritch Battery just makes it so that I can get more than just my mana nodes that increase my health. Also, my energy shield nodes will increase my health on my items. So Mind Over Matter lets that function as a build, right? Couples it all together, which is really nice. But it does have a very realistic consequence to it where my mana regen is halved, basically. I forget the exact term.
Is that the bottom part of it?
Is,
okay,
but yeah,
sure.
So it says your mana regen's 50%. And that's really hurting. So I did a complete respec and I went that route. And at the time, my mana was regenning very quickly. I'm like, okay, that's exciting. Like, I feel like I can do this casting, take the damage, even if it's the less life in total, like less health. I feel like I can do this. But that reduction in mana regen is...
Do you need Mind Over Matter if you go CI and Eldritch Battery?
Well, yeah, because then I only have one life and there's nothing.
Oh, right. Okay. I see that combo. I'll continue.
So yeah, but I'm still leveling, right? Like I think I'm Act 3 Cruel.
Yep. That's where we left off.
But and this isn't a criticism, it's just my resists suck. Like I've been getting almost no items that have been helpful, beneficial in any way. I'm playing the way the game's encouraging me to, where I'm spamming my stuff, but I'm going for pure energy shield bases, and I'm getting very, very few to drop. So I'm not getting the opportunity to transmute and augment almost any gear. Fine, if that's the way the game is, that's fine. But that's the state of my character, right? I'm at 30, 40, 50% on resists, chaos resistance.
That's actually not bad compared to me. Mine were awful going through the campaign.
But to try this idea, I have CI in the top right. Eldritch Battery is relatively close, but the tree is very different to Path of Exile 1, where there's not really any shortcuts. To get to certain clusters, they look close, but they just kind of wind around each other. It's a long path all the way around. Now, I don't mind that because for me, intelligence gives mana. Mana is going to be giving me my health, right? It's going to be my expenditure. It's obviously mana, but then it's also going to be, at the end of the day, I want it to be Burning Inscription, which is my damage as well, right? And
Burning Inscription does what?
Oh, Burning Inscription is the same thing as Impending Doom, where when your curse expires, that's where the damage comes from. But Burning Inscription instead just puts ignited. It's not called Burning Ground anymore. It's Ignited Ground. I think they're kind of skipping the whole complication of burning is kind of an ignite. It's called Ignited Ground now. So it's just going to be Ignited Ground, but it lasts for 4 seconds. And I'm like, okay, well. And so I'm going to see how consistent that is.
Is it based off your mana? Versus
it does a percentage. I think it's 20% of mana.
Okay.
But
cool.
So the difference is Impending Doom does its damage based on your current mana.
Sorry about that. Back.
No problem. So Impending Doom, which is the chaos damage when the curse expires, does damage based on your current mana. It specifically says current mana. So that's not always your max. It's if I'm spending like 400 mana, that's 400 less, right? So, but Burning Inscription, now I haven't played with it yet, so hopefully the description's correct, but the description doesn't say current mana, it says maximum mana. Mm-hmm. So no matter how much I've spent, no matter what my health is like, it's going to do that. So I like the idea of the curse exploding and then there being that 4 seconds of
is that 4 second of damage, burning ground, whatever it is, that's the one that's based off of your current mana?
No, Burning Inscription with the Ignited Ground is based off of maximum mana.
Okay.
And it's the Impending Doom, that solid hit of chaos damage. I don't know if it's technically a hit.
That's the current.
That's current mana. So I like that because then it gives me the opportunity to have a fluctuating life, fluctuating mana cost, and still deal a consistent amount of damage. So I'm looking forward to unlocking...
What's your defense in this? Is it just mana? Like, is it just
Yeah,
Is it just
I was
having lots of
hoping
mana?
when I just spec'd into this to try it out, and I'm too low. I don't have enough nodes for it to work really well right now because because there's CI in the top right, but then I have to go all the way to the top left to get mind over matter, and then of course there's just the pathing on the way.
Think of all the things in between.
Well, I don't have the nodes for all those things in between, so I got to get there. But the biggest one's going to be mana regen. Like, I know mana regen can be huge. Like, when you talk about the difference between life regen, you're getting like 0.6%, 0.8%, 1%. And then I'm getting 10% mana regen. A notable's 25% mana regen. Like, it's all legit. So I'm
flat ES on the tree. Does that still benefit you?
No. Well, I don't think there's flat ES on the tree. There's only percentage increases and then recharge rates and then start rates.
You're probably right. I'm probably thinking PoE 1-ish.
There might be 1 or 2 nodes that actually do. My assumption is all flat ES is applied. So it was a lot less. I had to get, and then the numbers are incorrect in the game because I'm getting, when I'm showing what the difference of my mana is going to be if I do or don't select Eldritch Battery on the tree, like just the number changes there, they're totally different than the math if I add and subtract what my flat mana is, adding it all up on paper, and then adding that to my current mana that it shows before and after I select it.
There's got to be something else happening then.
Yeah, but I need to know that. I'm the user. I'm the one that's needing to make this choice. The whole reason you're showing me the stat is so that I know. And so it shows me how much mana I'm going to have. Like, I highlight Eldritch Battery, it's unselected. I highlight it. It says, this is how much mana you're going to have. And I'm like, okay. I select it, and then my mana is totally different.
Oh, what it said you're going to have is not the same when you actually select it?
Right.
Like, and then, that is weird. Okay.
And then even if I was to, so I unselected it again, and then I did the math myself. I'm like, okay, well, maybe the energy shield from my character screen or the flat, like I added it all up with my gear. I was pretty sure there was no flat stuff from the tree. And then I just add that to the mana that I have. And nope. That didn't work either. And anyway, so it's just one of those things. And I know that there's some percentage-based mana as well. And then I have nodes that are percentage-based intelligence. So I know that changes a few things.
I still would think, though, if you hit the button on it, on the tree, and it says, like, these are going to be your changes, you would think that when you select it, that's exactly what it changes to.
Yeah, no, it's quite incorrect. And then there's also the support skills don't show up as damage skills when you're highlighting on the tree, like Impending Doom, Decaying Hex. I haven't unlocked Burning Inscription, but I assume it's the same, right? Even something like Minion Instability with the explosion, like none of that shows up on the tree as a skill that will do damage based on if you select. Like if I had Minion Instability and I highlight Minion Life, it's not going to tell me the difference of because it's a support skill. So so just a lot of the ideas that I have aren't really meshing with the current state of early access right now. I did try. So like I said, I just did this full respec into just pure mana. I got a lot less mana than I expected out of it, but, and I'm trying to play around with it. I helped Aaron out with a boss and I did fine with it.
Flex.
But when I'm playing now on my own, it's just I'm going 3 screens, die, reset. Going through
even with this most recent respec, or
yeah, because I just have too little damage or too little health. Like I have 1400 mana, which is my life, but I'm using like
a huge chunk
35,
of that.
like 350 to 400 per cast. But that's when my minions die, and my minions are dying on purpose, right? No, I'm
the sorceress, but you're in that north spot. I'm just trying to think of the reduction to cost for some of the mana stuff.
Yeah. So I'm going to go through eventually what I'm hoping the build will be able to do is I have my skeletons from my scepter, right? And I have minion instability. What's it called when you like they're taking? Infernal Legion as well. Like I want them to die, right? And then I have 2 separate cast on minion death nodes. Each of them are 1 curse.
Aren't those are expensive though, right?
Those are the expensive ones, right?
Yeah.
And there's going to be 2 minions, 2 skeletons that die at the same time every time, right? But it only takes currently with the current state of how cast on minion death works. All it takes is 2. Well, they die once, like as a pair, they each die once, and my curses are going off. but that's guaranteed every so many seconds, like 10 whatever seconds. You know, there's the respawn time, but then there's the time it takes for them to burn out and die. I'm like losing that chunk every now and then. And so that's like a quarter of my life. You know, a third of my life. Don't die. Right. And so then I'm like channeling Incinerate because I like the aspect of Incinerate where it has a negative 50% fire resist in exposure, but negative 50% in it. I'm like, that's huge. And I have like, there's nothing that really works for it that, I mean, there's like 4 supports that work for it, but it's not like I have a variety. But one of them is increasing the exposure effect by 30%. So like that's a lot of fun, especially if once
30% like changing it to 80 or 30% like
no, it's not additive. Yeah, so it'd be 30% 50, so it'd be like 65. Yeah, and so so I'm holding it down, and that's really great, and it even leaves burning ground once I'm at my max channeling state. So all that's a lot of fun, and I'm enjoying the idea of it. And eventually, of course, that's going to be to encourage and help with burning inscription. So then once I have that set up and once I feel like I have defenses and enough life and all that kind of stuff, then I'm going to start playing with duration of revive rates with the minions so that by the time... So what I'd like is that burning inscriptions on the ground while flammability is on the enemies, and I have the mana available that I'm not going to have to worry about while I'm channeling Incinerate, but then also hopefully have my minions revive in time so that there's very little downtime between ignited grounds on the ground. So want to play with that eventually, but now I don't even have the nodes to stay alive. So it's fun. I'm enjoying the idea of it. Unfortunately, I haven't had a lot of fun just because I honestly feel it's just the skills that I've chosen just by chance are really weak. I really hope that's the case, but like I said, I've fully invested a few times purely into damage, and I still feel like I was hitting like a wet noodle compared to some of the other like damage, like that burst damage a melee character can do. Obviously, watching your souped up monk, that was one of the most discouraging things I've ever felt in my life.
Yeah, cheaty though. Like I was also, I had used gear I had found before. I was using that ring that's bananas. So yeah, but
yeah.
I get
no,
it.
I know, but it was still like one of those like, oh, the game could feel like this, and I'm like there was one of the bosses my wife and I were doing, the Chimera in near the end of Act 2, maybe Act 3, I don't know. It was in a forest area.
It goes under the 3 towers or whatever. Yeah,
that took us a long time.
The first time I thought that was tough.
Her build's legit. Like she's got a real good variety of like a tiny bit of stun investment, tiny bit of damage investment, tiny bit of defense investment. Like it's like a nice 33% split. And she knows how her character's working. She's using a billion buttons to try and support this at this time and this time and this time and this time. And she's playing a way she doesn't want to
fight
to try and
like judge that on, because that fight is half the time it flies in the air for no reason at all.
Right.
It's
but that's
so
kind
dumb.
of, that's another part of it though. Like it took us 2 hours to try that, to beat that boss. Not one fight, but we would fight and we'd fight and we'd fight. But then we'd die.
Fight?
And we'd fight and we'd fight and we'd fight and we'd die. So like it took us a long time.
Are we talking about the Chimera that goes to those 3 towers that can break? Okay.
Yeah, it took a long time.
I thought, okay.
Especially because half the time when you're playing co-op, it's like, okay, I'm going to try and revive my partner. It took us 10 minutes to get this boss down to a quarter of its life. We don't want to just like, oh crap, my partner's dead. I'm going to, like you're going to spend like the next 5 minutes trying to revive your partner. So
when I was doing the trial master thing with Gemling, when they were helping me out, we were originally doing it with 3 people. And so there's this massive multiplier, right, to HP when you're playing in a group. It was insane when Gemling helped me afterwards, just the 2 of us. Things melted.
Oh yeah, the difference. Yeah,
like it was a huge difference. I was talking about it to, I think maybe with Logan or somebody, was that it's tough because you want to play in a group, but you also need to, like, either you're gonna have to make up for someone's damage, or you need to make sure everybody's on par with what they should, or like with the ability to already kill that whatever mob it was at the time in a timely fashion, because that multiplier hurts. Like it's cool. I think it's good for you to still be able to have, an experience as co-op versus just running through it. But it is, it's a noticeable one. Did you kill it though in the end?
Yeah. We got it, and we moved on. And then
The first time I killed that stupid thing, I just continued on. I had no idea I was supposed to go in the door. I was so mad because I was like, I have to do that boss again. It sucked.
And then just around the corner were all those river hags. So,
yeah, you're just coming to it.
It was just like nonstop joy. Oh, yeah.
They kept them in maps. When they're like souped up rare, just piss off. Just get right out of here.
Right.
Fighting them as a melee is exhausting.
Erin was introduced to them on that last play session that we did. And she was playing downstairs. I was upstairs. And when she's broadcasting, I don't like to be on a Discord chat with her because she's like yelling and like,
you know, like hear her screaming.
Well, she's interacting with the game. She's having a great time, but it's
awesome.
I need my hearing for important things later on. So I'm, so we're just in the same instance, but we're not chatting.
Just yell at each other.
She's like, I heard her complaining because I had her broadcast up. I heard her complaining about these like river hags or whatever they were called. And she was like, And then, so I'm like, oh, are you talking about the river hags? I yelled down. She's like, oh, hang on. My husband's talking to me. She takes off her headset. And the same thing. I'm like, yeah, they were designed by people in the company that are trying to like make the company fail. Those river hags. Oh,
the worst. They are the worst enemy in the game.
It's not a fun experience to try and figure that out. It's just annoying.
Yeah.
They're not going to change though. They're going to do
something.
River hags. They're going to increase the health, and then they're going to give them guaranteed on death effects.
Bigger AOE, but they'll give them girth, not just length.
Yeah, not giving me girth. Come on. I bought the penis pump. That would be a length thing anyway from Austin Powers.
I don't know.
Right? That's just a length thing. You remember Austin Powers?
Yeah.
It's not mine, I swear.
What time are we at? I have missed a call. Not an important one. I was going to bring up one thing with you. I wanted to it was funny. I was laughing with some people that I had got into an argument with my best bud over a New Year's Eve. We had a chat about sorcerer and witch. I figured it'd be a fun way for us to end this thing on, was just this conversation, because I've got about 15 minutes.
Okay. I don't have 15 minutes. So
do you gotta go? So maybe we'll save this for After Dark then.
No. Now's good. It's just I gotta make sure my son's ready to go bowling in 10 minutes or 20 minutes. So the conversation was sorcerer and witch. They start in the same spot. Witch has a ton of access to minion nodes. This conversation came up because Chris started playing, and he was playing as a monk, but he was playing with bows. And I had said, why didn't you start as an archer? And that kind of stirred Tyler and our conversation into this idea of the witch and the sorcerer having the same starting point, but differences. And you brought up a good point of that. It sucks because the access to that damage is gone. If you're talking the minion damage nodes that only the witch has, the two clusters that are
there other classes that have that where they start at the same spot?
No. So there's going to be 12 classes, but only 6 starting points. And
so it will eventually
it's just
be
going
like
to be the sorcerer and the witch that start at this very northern point.
Right.
And so only the witch will have like that 80% minion damage available in those 2 clusters that are very witch specific.
And you don't like that. My argument was that it was good for the witch, and that meant, yes, if you were playing minions, you should probably be a witch. But I feel when we were talking, I felt differently, because that is basically saying be a witch. If you're doing minions, be a witch. You have to be a witch in a way. No, I don't, because I don't want to feel gated that I have to be a certain ascendancy. With class, not ascendancy, because you do still have your choice of the 3 ascendancies.
But I don't know, like, to need to be a witch, otherwise you are missing out on 80% minion damage. Like, when you go through the tree, there's very little increases to actual minion damage. Like, there's not a lot.
But you there's a little bit, but definitely not that.
Right. Yeah. They have other things, like in other ways to get damage, but it's not just flat minion damage. Same thing with minion life. There's just not a lot. And sure, that's fine. I haven't taken the game deep. I don't know how it works. So, and that's fine. But then when you have the witch's starting point, having more than half of the minion damage nodes gated behind being a witch, that decreases the theory crafting. Now, I'm not saying every class should be valid for minions, but it shouldn't just be one. You know what I mean? I shouldn't feel like look how much I'm missing out on. Like, even in Path of Exile 1, it was a temporary issue to not be a certain class, right? It was because certain skills were gated behind which class you were, and you couldn't unlock them until you got to Lily, right? So that was a big consequence in how you started a certain class when you were doing minions, outside of the necromancer that did have a lot of minion damage associated to it. But now, but eventually, no matter which class I started, I could unlock all those gems that I needed. The tree was always the same for me, with the exception of the ascendancy. But the reason I was picking a different ascendancy was because I could make up that damage in some way, right? But now I feel like I have to be a witch to play minions, because there's 80%, which is more than half of the damage nodes for minions on the tree. That's a lot. And so I didn't like that. It was kind of like just one of those things where I feel like I was forced to play a witch. And that's not what Path of Exile is. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I agree with you. I kind of had a different stance when we were chatting, which is that I was also drinking, so it wasn't a fair conversation between the two of us. But I feel like it's still, yes, it is pointing you to, you should be a witch if you want to play minions. You can certainly do a different route if you want. You still have the choice in the ascendancy later on. It's the same argument, though. If I'm a witch, I'm losing out on all that damage stuff that the sorcerer gets. I don't have access to all of that cold, fire, lightning stuff that's right off the bat for a sorcerer. I don't know that I think that that's a bad thing. I think that it's not as open in PoE 1, but that being said, in PoE 1, the fact was you were sacrificing quite a bit to get to it. I do understand what you're saying. It's just not there now. So it is a little bit different, but I don't know that I feel like it's a bad. I don't think it's taking away the theory crafting. It's just lessening the theory crafting. I mean,
I would agree with you if the nodes weren't so strong.
They have to be strong, though.
Well, they have to be strong for the sake of leveling purposes, but they can't be the majority of the damage for that specific archetype.
But then I don't want a game where you can play any character and make them any way. I don't like the idea that somebody can start up a warrior and have this minion style. I like the idea that the witch is more focused on the minions, and the theory crafting is within the scope of whatever your class is that you're picking. I think you made a comment that it was less ARPG-ish or whatever. The Path of Exile is still so far outside of the scope of what a general ARPG style is when it comes to theory crafting. If you look at what it was based off of, Diablo 2, when I picked my class, my skills were set. I wasn't able to, go into these other styles of play. These were the skills you got as you leveled up through it. Diablo 3 was the same way. You weren't, going from this one particular class and then branching out like you can do with Path of Exile. So I feel like it still is a good one where you can branch out. I do understand what you're saying in the sense that they're gone, but I'm not sure that it's a bad thing that they say if you want to play minions, not that you have to, but that yes, you are losing out on a decent amount. But it's no different than if you are a witch and you want to do a fire-based or a cold-based. I'm missing out on a ton right off the bat.
Oh, you should see the difference, man. I'm getting small 8% spell damage nodes. I am not getting the same amount of damage that a minion player is getting at all. But I still think that it shouldn't be the majority of the damage. I should get a benefit if I'm the witch and there's minion nodes there. Sure, great, that makes sense. If I feel like starting as a sorceress instead, okay, yeah, I'm missing out on that. But I am missing out on way too much to not be a witch. I don't think a game like this, your theory crafting should be, I have to be the witch, and my theory crafting is going to be between these three ascendancies. I think there should be a benefit to being the witch, but I shouldn't feel like I'm an idiot for not being the witch. So I just think the values, if they're going to, and I'm sure they will, if they're going to keep the first two clusters specific to classes on the tree, they cannot be insanely strong. They need to be able to help you and help carry you through the beginning acts, of course, because that's what you have access to. But they should not be in relation to what is left on the tree for everyone else. They shouldn't be the majority or an overpowering amount of ratio in terms of what you're getting.
It's fun to be on opposite sides of this one because I think you should. And it'll be interesting to see what they do because I think Witch is the only one that shares a starting point currently, right? Witch and Sorceress.
I
don't think any
warrior.
I don't actually know where Mercenary starts, so I'm not sure on that one.
They're the duelist. Yeah, it might be. So what you should do is compare what the starting nodes for the Sorcerer are compared to the Witch. It's a huge difference, man. It's a huge difference.
I'll have to look because I have my Sorceress, but I haven't gotten or is it Sorceress? Is that the name of the starting class? Yeah. I haven't actually compared, but I can't say like, the Sorceress just doesn't get the same benefit as the Witch, but I feel like it shouldn't be, I'm an idiot because I wanted to play minions and I didn't start as the Witch, but I certainly think that it should be a consideration of having to restart if that was the focus because of how strong their part of the tree is. It makes it unique to that being that class versus just, I started as a mercenary and I'll just work my way up. Granted, the tree is way harder to work your way up, but I'll just work my way up and I'll grab all those same spots. I also think too, with 12 classes, having separate starting nodes or whatever makes it easier to try to theory craft in the beginning versus having, if you put the Sorceress and the Witch nodes on the tree right off the bat, the understanding of where to go with your character becomes way harder for a new player.
I agree. We're on the same page on that one. And I'm not saying like as a Sorceress, I should be leveling with minions.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm saying at all. Like as a Sorceress, I need to use what's available to me and what's strong in the moment for me to progress. And I totally agree with that. But after I'm ready to respec,
right.
What I'm missing out on to me at the current state is astronomical in comparison to what else is available for me.
I'll have to compare the two because I haven't actually compared what the source starting area looks like compared to the
and
minion,
watch people. If Justin ends up agreeing with me, he's never going to say it live on the podcast.
It'll be unlikely that I do, even if the sorceress is. Yeah, maybe after dark. I won't say it in the main episode. I'll save that for after dark. All right, let's wrap this up. Forever Exiled 274. Justin AK tags.
Tyler, Wrecker of Days.
Patrons will catch you in After Dark. Everybody, we'll see you next week in 275. Thank you so much for hanging out. If you're looking for more information, we got a website, foreverexiled.com. We have the very best Discord community. Pop in there and say hi. And Patreon, other ways to support the podcast, you'll find them down below and on other things.
Sweet.